If Akuma is your main character, then this video is an absolute must-see. Get ready to dive into the ultimate compilation of everything you need to know about Street Fighter's most notorious character. From his origin story to his signature moves, we've meticulously gathered every crucial detail about Akuma to satisfy your craving. Brace yourself for an exhilarating journey through the world of this iconic fighter. This video is tailor-made for Akuma enthusiasts like you. Without further ado, let me welcome you to the Fighterverse. We're going to start this video with all of the evolutions of Akuma to understand every single stage of his presence during the Street Fighter timeline. His basic version, as fandom states, Akuma is a cold and extremely powerful warrior whose sole reason for being is to hone his fighting skills by battling and destroying strong foes. He rarely displays any sign of emotions or humanity, and rarely smiles. As a righteous calling, or as an afterthought of conquering a major adversary, he will not engage in battle against helpless people. Akuma usually wears a dark-colored gi, with the sleeves removed, similar to Ken and Ryu. He has red hair with a top knot, sharp pointed teeth, and is often barefooted, though some games have him wearing brown sandals. Depending on the game or piece of art, he either wears a black belt at his waist or a length of rope. Over his hands, he either wears brown training gauntlets or wraps his hands with rope as well. He has tan skin and crimson eyes, and wears his deceased master prayer beads around his neck. When fighting another fighter, Akuma rarely resorts to his true strength. He only fights warriors he deems worthy, or those he believes have the potential to become such. Akuma fought Ryu in Street Fighter Alpha 2 just to gain insight into Ryu's abilities. Shin Akuma, known in Japan as Shin Gouki, appeared in Street Fighter Alpha 2 as a hidden boss. This is the form Akuma takes when he becomes almost one with the Satsui no Hado, although he does not lose his humanity in doing so. His personality remains more or less the same as the original. Essentially, he is Akuma using the fullest extent of his power. However, he is more competitive in battle and less merciful when he is fighting a strong warrior. He will only fight at his true potential when he has found an equal to do battle with. The two versions operate very similarly, but Shin Akuma is faster, deals more damage, and can throw 2 Sanku Hadokens at once. His special moves also tend to have more priority and recovery compared to the playable version. Also, his Shin Gokusatsu is much faster and travels farther, making it harder to evade, and in some instances inflicts more damage. In some games, Shin Akuma also has extremely powerful specials as well. Shin Akuma's overall style revolves around completely overwhelming the opponent. He already adds more on top that he can already do as his normal state, and with practically no recovery between his attacks, he can string together more devastating cross-up attacks and combos that he can't do as his regular self. Shin Akuma is not to be taken lightly, since he can do severe damage to a careless player or the opponent. Oni, which translates to ogre, is Akuma in his strongest form. This is the form Akuma takes when he has become one with the Satsui no Hado entirely, completely losing any shred of humanity he had remaining. Due to his training and meditation, Akuma may have surpassed some of the darker aspects of the Satsui no Hado, allowing him to control his actions. As Oni, he finally becomes one with the Satsui no Hado, whose power has now managed to completely overtake him. Oni appears as a far more muscular and noticeably larger version of Akuma. He has dark blue skin, glowing yellow-red eyes, and glowing spiky shoulder-length hair, fangs, and short protrusions on his forehead, resembling growing horns. The top half of his gi has been blown off by the amount of dark chi he emanates, showing off his musculature. The prayer beads that were once around his neck now float about, disconnected around his body. Having reached the full extent of the Satsui no Hado to the point of turning into a demon, instead of a concrete martial art style, he relies on unrestrained yet graceful movements filled with abandon, embodying that of a terrible destructive force beyond control. The Satsui no Hado also enables him to perform powerful energy attacks as well. Another version of Akuma is Cyber Akuma, mechanically enhanced by Apocalypse, Cyber Akuma's upgrades include a mechanical right arm, dubbed Booster Rocket, metal wings, and 4 extra arms that are only seen in one of his win poses. His first appearance was in Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter as the final boss. Because of Apocalypse's control over him, Cyber Akuma's personality is vastly different from that of the original Akuma's, being more surreal. This is the mecha version of Akuma called Zero Akuma. Zero Akuma is an extremely powerful mech based on Akuma, featured in the game Cyberbot's Full Metal Madness. It featured a unique playstyle similar to Street Fighter's Akuma, as well as a unique life bar design. Zero Akuma's powers and abilities are flight, weapon mastery, energy manipulation and energy projection, martial arts, force field creation, and explosion manipulation. In Street Fighter 6, Akuma is back, and his appearance has evolved yet again. As fans of the series may have noticed, one of the most noticeable changes to his appearance is his white hair. While some might attribute this to his connection to the full-blown menace that is Oni, it's possible that this is just a natural sign of aging for the Demon Warrior. Despite being one of the meanest fighters in the series, aging is something that we all inevitably face. Akuma, despite his formidable abilities, is not immune to the passage of time. After all, he and his brother, Goen, were both trained by the legendary Gotetsu, meaning that Akuma is roughly the same age as his sibling. It's a bittersweet realization for fans of the series, as it means that we might be seeing less of the lightning-fast, ultra-powerful Akuma we know and love. However, it also presents an exciting opportunity to explore his character in new and interesting ways. Akuma's latest appearance is not a complete overhaul of his design. While his trademark look is mostly the same, there are a few notable changes. His prayer beads have shifted from brown to black. Additionally, the fur around his shoulders appears to be a lighter color than before, with a wild mane of hair that may or may not contain some animal fur. The images of Akuma's new design have caused quite a stir among fans, with many wondering what these changes might signify. Is he embracing his connection to the demon realm in a more visceral way? As a fan of the Street Fighter franchise, I've been following the latest updates on Akuma's appearance with great interest. And while there may have been some changes to his design, I can't help but wonder if there's more to it that meets the eye. Personally, I think Capcom is working hard to make Akuma even cooler than before. He's already one of the most exciting characters in the series, and it's clear that the development team wants to take him up to the next level. One possible feature that they could be working on is the concept of a level up system for Akuma. This could be something akin to Minon's medallion level up system, where Akuma's appearance changes as he taps into the full power of the Satsui no Hado. His white hair and overall appearance could serve as an indication of his transformation, as he becomes more submerged in the dark energy that fuels his fighting style. This could give him an even greater edge in combat, with abilities that go beyond human comprehension. Of course, it's important to remember that designs and ideas can change all the time during game development. We don't know for sure if this theory holds any weight until we see Akuma in action in the upcoming game. It's possible that this could be a hint towards Akuma's journey towards enlightenment, but we won't know for sure until we get to play the game ourselves. Regardless of what changes await Akuma in the future, one thing is for sure, he remains one of the most iconic characters in the Street Fighter universe. Let's start today's episode with the meaning behind his name. Gosetsu's name comes from Street Fighter II, the animated movie, which was produced at the same time as Super Turbo, whereas the name given to Ryu and Ken's master. Capcom adapted the name Gotetsu for Goken and Akuma's master, instead of being another name for Goken. Gotetsu has many variants of his origin stories, and what is known of the master. In the more traditional story, Gotetsu was the martial arts master of Goken and his brother Akuma, and was also a user of the Satsui no Hado, being the only known person who could use the power without falling into its darker aspects, possibly because he only used it sparingly and wisely. This was also how his two students were introduced to its power. Prior to the events shown in the Street Fighter games, Gotetsu was challenged and killed by Akuma at his full potential, who performed the Shungoku Satsu on his soul in a fight to the death. Gotetsu gladly died, happy to see that his student surpassed him in the art. The prayer beads that Akuma wears originally belonged to Gotetsu. Gotetsu can be seen in Akuma's ending, along with Goken in the original Street Fighter Alpha. This was his only on-screen appearance in the series. In Street Fighter Alpha Generations, Gotetsu has an important role in the animated movie. He is shown fighting Akuma at the beginning, and is revealed that he has tried in vain to dissuade his student from delving deeper and deeper into the power of the Satsui no Hado. While Gotetsu himself proved able to tap into its power, unlike Akuma, he didn't seem to suffer from its side effects, likely because his more balanced approach and rarer use. Unlike his game appearance, he is depicted as having short hair and a very small stature. In Street Fighter Assassin's Fist, in keeping with his established backstory and depiction, he is shown as the old master of Goken and Gouki, the original name of Akuma, teaching them the old ways of the Anatsuken to overcome and destroy the opponent, but also preaching about finding balance between the light and the darkness. As Gouki immersed himself in the study of the Satsui no Hado, Gotetsu ordered him to leave the dojo. When Gouki resurfaced as Akuma, Gotetsu challenged him to try and stop him, but was defeated and killed by his former student. He is also depicted as having a niece, Sayaka, who served as a love interest for both Goken and Akuma. In another variant of Gotetsu's story and origins, Udon Comics released Street Fighter Origins, Akuma, which gives a little more information on the Anatsuken master. It was revealed that Gotetsu had originally a group of students and fighters who were well versed in the Hado. At some point, many of his students, such as Gyuki, and his first generation of students were almost possessed by the Satsui no Hado and had to turn into demonic beings and assassins. Eventually, they turned against each other due to the evils that was caused by Gyuki. Gotetsu saw the potential threat of what could happen if someone was not able to contain the Dark Hado with light, and sent a group of men to find Gyuki and his hiding spots to take him out. During the winter in Japan, he and Retsu found a young Akuma who was badly wounded from a bear attack. He took Akuma back to his dojo to help heal him. As Akuma woke up, he asks him where is he. Gotetsu tells him that he has nowhere to go and that he heard about Gyuki, his father's murder. Gotetsu told Akuma that he once trained his father. After a long talk, Gotetsu told Akuma that he would find his brother Goken. Akuma, however, told him that Goken did not want to be found, and that Akuma wanted to know all about Anatsuken and its techniques. Many years later, a businessman who hosts tournaments came to Gotetsu's dojo in order to find Akuma. Gotetsu told him where to find Akuma. Later that night, Gotetsu noticed that Akuma was troubled, and he asked him to come inside the dojo to ask him what was wrong. Akuma told him that he wanted to know more about himself, and left the dojo in order to find himself the very next day. Goken appeared right in front of Gotetsu and his dojo to thank him, and asked him to train him in order to grow stronger as a person, which Gotetsu agreed to. 5 years later, Akuma came back to Gotetsu and the dojo to train again in order for him to become the perfect warrior. Gotetsu told him that he must go into the mountains in order for him to find who he truly is. When Gotetsu was training other young students on the art of Anatsuken, a demonic-looking Akuma under the influence of the Satsui no Hado looked at him with rage. Gotetsu told Akuma to abandon the power, like his father did before it corrupted him completely. Akuma told him that he finally knows about how his father was killed, and tells Gotetsu's time has come. The two engaged in a fight, as Gotetsu told him about how dangerous the Satsui no Hado was if fully embraced, and told him that he cannot stop fighting. He pleads with him to stop, and asks him what he truly wants from this fight, only for Akuma to reply that he wants him to prepare for death. Akuma kicks him in the air with the demon Armageddon, kicking Gotetsu through the dojo roof, killing him. As a sign of gratitude for all the years spent under him, Akuma takes his body to a mat under a tree and respectfully lies him down. Fun fact, Gyuki's name means ox demon. Ox alludes to the strength of Goken, and demon alludes to Akuma. As stated by fandom, while earlier Street Fighter games made references to Ryu and Ken's master, Goken made his first illustrated appearance in Street Fighter II, Ryu, Masaomi Kansaki's manga adaptation of Street Fighter II. Since then, Goken has appeared in several Street Fighter movies and comics, including Udon's Street Fighter line of comics, Akuma's ending in Street Fighter Alpha, and the Street Fighter Alpha Generations movie. Before his illustration in Street Fighter Alpha, Goken's appearance would differ vastly between media. Goken himself was based off Shenlong, a character that originated from the infamous English mistranslation of Ryu's win quote from the early versions of the Street Fighter II series, "You must defeat Shenlong to stand a chance," which many speculated was referring to Ryu's master. It was intended to say, "You must defeat my Shoryuken to stand a chance." April Fool's jokes created by EGM in 1992 and 1997 actually provided an appearance for Shenlong, which in turn directly influenced Goken's current appearance. It should be noted that, prior to Street Fighter IV, Shenlong was actually used as Goken's Western name in some media, similar to how his brother is referred to as either Akuma or Gouki, depending on the region. Goken was finally introduced as a playable character in Street Fighter IV, In response to fans demanding Shenlong, one of his obtainable player titles states, aka Shenlong, and one of his win quotes even references the original quote, "You must defeat me to stand a chance." His appearance is similar to the Shinto Kunitsukami Dairi, Sarutaiko, who is considered the oldest of the patron gods of the martial arts in Japan, representative of purification, strength, courage, and is the guardian of the bridge that connects the earth to the heavens. His personality may also be reflective of Morehi Ueshiba, the founder of Aikido and spiritualist who found enlightenment and spiritual harmony in his later years. It is also said that Goken and Akuma's design were based on the Nio, or the Gongurikishi, two wrathful statues that guard under a separate temple the entrance of a Japanese Buddhist temple. Each of these statues states a purpose, thus having a meaning in their creation. The right statue that guards the gate of the Buddhist temple is called Misaku Kongo. It is a symbol of overt violence, with its open mouth and baring teeth, holding a mallet ready to protect with ferocity the entrance to the temple. The left statue that guards the temple is called Narian Kongo. This statue symbolizes strength. It can wield a sword or it can be bare-handed. One of its characteristics is that this statue has its mouth closed, demonstrating serenity and power. Goken is usually depicted as a bearded man who wears Japamala prayer beads on his neck and a karate gi with the kanji mu sewn to the back. It is said that the Japanese and Korean term mu, or Chinese wu, means not have, without, is a key word in Buddhism, especially Zen traditions. As the preceding master of the martial art that Ryu and Ken practice and wield in the series, Goken is nonetheless the originator and peerless practitioner of the toned-down assassination martial art taught by Gotetsu. As seen in his moveset, Goken has mastered the martial art to the point that he has grown to create techniques that better suit his own dynamics and philosophies, one that follows the use of both the Hado no Chikara and the Power of Nothingness for an effective and powerful form of self-defense, rather than the violent and destructive form of the martial art that his brother wields within the Satsui no Hado. This is most significant in his repertoire, spelling and dynamics. Many of their kanji are those with more benevolent and less wrathful interpretations than ones seen in Akuma's, and they are performed in such ways where they are intended for knockout stopping force rather than maiming and severe injury. As stern and serious as he can be, Goken is nonetheless enthusiastic in the nature of competition, being a spirited and modest good sport at heart. His approach is silent and calm, evocative of Zen principles, and he often shares insightful, if not also blunt and critical, advice and wisdom to that effect. For example, he tells Dan that anger will not help him, fearing it would lead him to a dark place, and he informs DJ that if he is silent, he would be surprised at what he learns. He is on good terms with people like Rose and Dalsum, who share similar ideals and beliefs. Goken detests Akuma for killing their master, Gotetsu, and embracing the darkness that resides within their arts, instead of seeking a purer form of strength. He also despises Bison for his use of psycho power, believing he endangered the world. The most destructive character in the Street Fighter universe first made his debut on Super Street Fighter II Turbo, Hyperfighting, on December 1992. Akuma's legacy started there, but its character creation was not brought without thought and planning. Akuma's character was sketched and redesigned multiple times by the Japanese-based video game company Capcom, in which the Street Fighter franchise is in. The Capcom team of graphic designers wanted to make sure to have the perfect character to be in the vessel of the Dark Hado. Since not having much success with its drawings, the Street Fighter Capcom found inspiration on the ends of Buddhism. Akuma's design was based on the Nio, or the Gongurikishi, two wrathful statues that guard under a separate temple at the entrance of Japanese Buddhist temples. Each of the statues states a purpose, thus having a meaning in their creation. The right statue that guards the gate of the Buddhist temple is called Mishaku Kongo. It is a symbol of overt violence, with its open mouth and baring teeth, holding a mallet ready to protect with ferocity the entrance to the temple. The left statue that guards the temple is called Narian Kongo. This statue symbolizes strength. It can wield a sword, or it can be bare-handed. One of its characteristics is that the statue has its mouth closed, demonstrating serenity and power. The new statue's fierce and threatening look was designed to ward off evil spirits and to keep the temple grounds free of demons and thieves. The irony of the Capcom creators. But nevertheless, we can appreciate the origins of the art and structure of the Street Fighter's Ultimate Fighter. Akuma's fierce looks are just as mean as the arsenal of fighting moves he has in his book. But there is no technique feared by the Street Fighter community, other than his legendary Shungokusatsu, also known as the Wrath of the Raging Demon. The Wrath of the Raging Demon is a very powerful technique taught in the assassination's arts, with any martial art developed with the intention of destroying an opponent. This type of technique was taught by Akuma's trainer, Getsu. This technique, when performed, while wielding the Dark Hado power, will be submerged in its killing intent, giving its opponent a series of deadly strikes in an instant. Fighters that had used this technique gave into the powers of the Dark Hado, and eventually became consumed by its power, becoming a violent demonic being. Like, for example, Oni, Akuma's evolution form when he becomes one of the Dark Hado. The only character who could resist this technique without giving in was Akuma's trainer Getsu. The interesting aspect of the Wrath of a Raging Demon is that its technique is based on karmic forces obtained from the Dark Hado. Its technique punishes its opponent on the merits of the sins and evil the opponent has marked in his soul. In other words, the damage applied when the Wrath of the Raging Demon is applied is not determined by the strength of Akuma's power, it's determined by the opponent's evilness, hurting its opponent as much as he or she deserves. While being powerful, this technique can only be executed on living life forms that possess a soul. The Wrath of the Raging Demon, when executed, lights up Akuma's back with a red fiery kanji symbol. This symbol on Akuma's back has been the character's trademark design, one who fits full to its persona. But what is the meaning of this symbol? What does it state? The symbol located on Akuma's back is the Japanese kanji called ten, that can also be translated as heaven. This kanji, like in most Japanese writings, can mean plenty of things. It can be translated as day, heaven, or invincibility. The kanji on his back is made to reflect immortality at the rate of power, meaning that when the character 10 appears on its back, it's representing immortality. In old Japanese folklore, whenever the kanji with the character 10 appears on someone's forehead, it means the person is immortal. Thus Capcom, taking the idea of modifying it to fit the symbol on the back of Akuma's guy. Pretty interesting fact, considering that Akuma's style and behavior exceeds the capability of other characters in the Street Fighter universe. Akuma's style of technique is indeed a 10. As promised in the beginning of our video, we have a bonus dark secret about Akuma in the Street Fighter universe. You may wonder how someone with amazing ability and strength gets its energy from. The fact is that Akuma is a great martial artist. He is also indeed a human and needs to feed himself from time to time. But what does a character like Akuma eat? In this prequel film, made by a Capcom-approved fan called Street Fighter Assassin's Fist, we can delve inside Akuma's training regimen when he is exiled from his trainer's dojo. We can see in this short how Akuma uses his Hadouken technique to fish by the lake. By hurling Hadoukens to the lake, he can pick up the unconscious fish that floats on the top, making it an easy meal for Akuma. Hadouken's fishing at its finest. Now, thinking about all the power Akuma expels out of his body, I personally think a couple of fish would not replenish his power and stamina. But at least the guy eats healthy. Maybe that's why he does not need that much food to begin with. But indeed, it's a peculiar fact that makes the character more relatable to his human side. After all, even though he is a strong individual, he is still human. Akuma's character in the Street Fighter universe will always be one of intrigue and mystery. A powerful godlike being, in which his only objective is to be the strongest in the world, achieve superhuman strength, power and status, and to rain terror on any challenger that opposes him. Akuma's legacy to push the boundaries of inner power and display it in the battle arena is what makes this character so amazing. Personally, and to most of the viewers, its favorite character in the Street Fighter saga. The Dark Hado Master himself has secrets in his name that fills the very existence of its personality. The Power of Nothingness is also known as the Mu Noken in Japanese. It is also known as the Kyosui no Hado, meaning surge of mindless intent, or the Sacred Hado. It is a light-based energy force used by Goken, Ryu, and to a certain extent, Ken masters. The Power of Nothingness is a state of consciousness transcending ordinary perspective, born through spiritual and mental refinement, bearing common traits with states of being with Buddhism, martial arts, and spiritual perfection. It is the power to act without being attached to emotions and thought, free of fear, anger, pride, and ego, to draw upon the contents of one's heart intuitively, without obstacle and hesitation, and to be aware of the world and to know one's place and meaning within its vastness, to flow with all of creation without the need of worry, desire, and doubt. It is the complete opposite of the Satsui no Hado. As such, it can only be used by a person of pure mind, compassion, mercy, and peace. Such a person must have embraced the peaceful and spiritual aspect of the art to their fullest extent. Just like the Satsui no Hado, it makes a person unbelievably powerful, granting invincibility, spiritually and physically, to many attacks, as well as sealing off evil power and making the user a stronger fighter. Goken has practiced with this power throughout his years of training with Gotetsu, and after he had completed his training and left his master to begin with his own dojo, he is the only one who has used this power in battle in the games, as shown by his Shin form. Shin can be written using different kanji characters and can mean true, extend, or new. Ryu and Ken have awakened this power, but only Ryu has mastered it as of the events of Street Fighter V, capable of using it to render his soul, incapable of consumption by Nikali, and capable of defeating M. Bison's Psycho Power. The Psycho Power is a negative, psychotic, and evil energy that increases the user's abilities, strength, and stamina. Psycho Power feeds off the fear, anger, and the hatred of others. This energy can also affect the skin, body color, eyes, and hair of people. At the ending of A Shadow Falls, there's an implication that Ryu had mastered the Power of Nothingness, as the Hadouken used to defeat M. Bison gives off an aura seemingly consistent with the power. Ryu identifies the Power of Nothingness, not as the power to defeat one's enemies, but as the power to grow in skill, completely distinct from the Satsui no Hado. In Street Fighter Assassin's Fist, the Power of Nothingness is one of the central concepts to the Street Fighter Assassin's Fist. Having seen what the Satsui no Hado did to his brother, and believing that there must be another way to tap into the chi needed for the Anatsuken, Goken travels the world. Years later, he explains to his students that during his travel, a kung fu master named Jen set him on the path to unlocking the Power of Nothingness. And it is this power that Goken teaches them to tap into for their arts, completely altering the school's tradition. The idea that Jen showed the path to this power to Goken, as proposed by Street Fighter Assassin's Fist, would explain how both were able to survive Akuma's Shun Gokutatsu. The game storyline explains that both were able to empty their soul in time. Emptying oneself of everything takes extreme discipline. However, they express disbelief that it can be done instantaneously in the middle of battle. Ryu mentions that his chi in his state feels cool, while Ken states that he feels hot. In early training, Ken seems to be stimulated by following a particular meditative kata, which presents more difficulty and less speed of progress than following another kata, which stimulates the Satsui no Hado, but it's purer. Kata is a Japanese word meaning form. It refers to a detailed choreographed pattern of martial arts movements made to be practiced alone. It can also be reviewed within groups when training. It is practiced in Japanese martial arts as a way to memorize and perfect the movements being executed. In the Udon comic book series, Street Fighter Unlimited, Ryu enters a state he calls Shin Ryu by merging the Satsui no Hado with the Power of Nothingness, bringing balance to his light and his dark chi. As Shin Ryu, he was able to finally defeat Akuma. Ryu's appearance in this form is mostly the same. The only noticeable changes are to his left eye, which glows red, as well as the occasional flare of a red and blue aura. The Power of Nothingness is the inverse of the Satsui no Hado, also known as the Surge of Murderous Intent, or Surge of Killing Intent, sometimes translated as the Dark Hado. It is a dark, energy-based force that is known for its use by Akuma. For the people who do succeed in harnessing the Satsui no Hado, they become extremely powerful, but at the cost of losing their humanity and compassion. They developed a cold, negative outlook in life, a nihilistic detachment from themselves, as well as other people, and develop an obsessive, dark, murderous, and even suicidal desire to fight. What the Satsui no Hado is rarely gets talked about in the mainline games. However, it is described as taking the spirit to kill the opponent to the extreme. It transforms into a physical power. According to Seth in Street Fighter IV, The Ties That Bind, his definition of the Satsui no Hado describes it as a power rooted in the darker natural basis of the human instinct, including competition, survival, to trample on, impose, and thrive over opposition, and the manifestation of destruction born out of conflict and fighting. The Satsui no Hado made its first debut alongside Akuma in Super Street Fighter II Turbo. During the events of Street Fighter V, the Satsui no Hado within Ryu was being called out by the consumer of souls. In martial arts, the Dark Hado, as it appears in the Street Fighter universe, is a form of chi. What is chi? How does it work? Chi is the energy that is inside you and around you. It is the energy that you use to breathe, to eat, to talk. It is the energy that moves the waves in the ocean, the plants to grow. More than that, chi is the energy that makes you and everything around you feel alive. Everyone manipulates their inner chi. We see evidence of it when we breathe, when we talk, walk, eat. Any action you do can be considered a small manipulation of your chi and the chi around you. However, the use of this chi in our daily life is managed inefficiently. For example, you might use more energy on running than walking. Proper management of this force needs balance, and that is where martial arts training comes in. In martial arts training, you can train to have a better control of the use of your chi. As you might know by now, chi is the energy you use to punch, kick, attack, and defend. This can be obtained by learning different types of postures and movements of any desired style of fighting art. Each style of martial arts is a form of how one uses its potential without draining one's energy. In other words, using techniques that will require minimum energy with maximum potential. An example of a technique is the breaking of a wood plank with your palm in karate. Using your body's momentum to bring an opponent down in judo. You can see full-on experienced martial artists do repetitive moves like the ones mentioned without draining their energy supply. Even though an experienced martial artist can get to the level of focus and energy that is required, it still requires that his moves and forms be influenced by other emotions. Emotions in fighting is a double-edged sword. If a fighter cannot control its emotions, he is more bound to lose a fight than an opponent that has great balance between energy and emotions. Having conflicting emotions during a fight may take the fighter lose more energy on itself and its opponent. That is why it is important for a fighter to fully develop a balance between both the control of their movements and their emotions. Fully developing this balance, an experienced martial artist can then push the boundaries of its power. In the Street Fighter universe, extensive training of your chi can go beyond the human capabilities. For example, a fighter can use its own chi to draw energy from the earth. It can give the user ability to sense and absorb chi from its surroundings, use teleportation, float, fly, and throw it in like a form of a fireball-like punch, aka a Hadoken. This is where the Dark Hado comes into play. To get a better understanding, The Dark Hado, or in Japanese, the Satsui no Hado, is a dark possessed surge of power that is deeply rooted into the person's instinct of survival and in position over its opponent. It is the desire to use hatred and rage to fuel victory in battle. The Dark Hado is beneficial in tapping the most obscure power available. It is also very lethal for an untrained mind to handle the capabilities of such power, such as why the dilemma facing Ryo, in which he does not want to be consumed by this type of power. His training is based on the concept of meritorious intent and the power of nothingness, which is not having any strong feeling towards your opponent. It's based on developing oneself as a martial artist and a human being. This practice focuses on emptying your mind and controlling your energy in fight, to inflict as little as damage possible to your opponent. The total opposite of what the Dark Hado requires. For the fighters who succeed in controlling the Dark Hado type of power and becoming powerful, changes in their outlook on life appear: loss of human empathy and compassion, rise in negativity, dark and obsessive nature of murderous intent. Under the Dark Hado's influence, a character's eyes will glow red, and their teeth will turn into sharp fangs, as the body of their skin darkens over time. Their hair will also turn red to white, and their nails will turn into claws. The voice of the character will become deeper. If one embraces it to a lesser degree, their eyes will glow blue. If one balances the Dark Hado and the Power of Nothingness, the character would be in complete control and balance of its power. However, if one has used it to their fullest extent for too long, they cannot be released from its hold and will transform into a supernatural entity, becoming one with the Dark Hado. Once a character is in this state, a union between hatred and fighting technique will create an aura of destruction, leaving all human feelings of compassion and empathy behind, technically becoming a demon-like figure. The Dark Hado character, who wields this power, has also the special ability to talk and speak with others telepathically, gain a healing factor, manipulate the soul of an individual, and can even control the weather. We can understand that the Dark Hado is the ultimate weapon in the Street Fighter universe. While some characters want to embrace its total power, other characters like Ryu tend to go a different route. Certainly, we can see the Dark Hado as a powerful weapon, used on the principles of hatred and destruction. But the Satsui no Hado is just a state of mind. It is a form of how powerful our mind and emotions are. I see it as a symbol of the power that lies in you, that when used to its maximum effect, it can produce outstanding results. I think if managed in a balanced state like Gotetsu, one can withhold its power without being consumed by its evil force.